Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to zero in on something that, well, it touches pretty much everything we do, whether we realize it or not. Creativity. Now, when you hear that word, you probably picture, I don't know, a painter, a musician, maybe a writer.
The usual suspects.
Exactly. And if you've ever thought, nope, not me, or, felt like you don't have a creative bone in your body, well, this deep dive is definitely for you.
Absolutely. We've sort of inherited this pretty narrow idea that creativity belongs only in the traditional arts.
Yeah.
But what if that's like just scratching the surface? Our mission today, really, is to crack open that definition.
Okay.
Explore a much, much wider, more inclusive view of creativity. Something that's relevant to your life, your everyday, no matter what you actually do.
And we're basing this on some really interesting thoughts from Ginger Birkenbuhl. She's the founder of Burke Creative.
That's the one. A really thought-provoking article.
Okay, so let's get straight into this whole artist label.
Mm-hmm.
Birkenbuhl really hits on this feeling around the word, doesn't she?
She does. It's like there's this unspoken assumption
Right.
that unless you're, painting or sculpting or writing novels or designing fashion,
The classics.
then you're just not really creative. It's this idea that's, well, she suggests it's like a lie we've been told since we were kids.
And it gets reinforced, too.
Oh, definitely.
Hmm.
Think about where we usually celebrate art. Museums, galleries.
Award shows, like the Grammys she mentions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It sets up this kind of benchmark, right? And maybe unintentionally, it makes a whole lot of people feel like, well, they don't measure up, or that whatever they do creatively just doesn't count.
Yeah, it boxes people in, which, that's limiting in itself.
Totally.
And Birkenbuhl shares this fantastic story about an orthodontist. Now, that's probably not the first job that springs to mind when you think creative,
Well,
right?
not typically, no.
Yeah.
But this orthodontist apparently saw himself as an artist first.
Okay, so how did that work? How does art apply to, well, teeth?
Well, that's what makes it such a great example. He saw faces, mouths as like fundamental structures.
Okay.
And the job of aligning teeth, yeah, it uses science. But for him, it was also a creative process. He was making decisions about shape, line, pattern, balance,
Oh.
and how he actually placed the braces. He was applying this artistic sensibility to something we usually just see as purely scientific or medical.
That really makes you stop and think, especially about fields like STEM, science, tech, engineering, math. There's this common idea that they're all just cold, hard logic. No room for art or intuition or faith, as Birkenbuhl puts it. But is that really true?
Well, if you pull back a bit and just think about thinking itself, Birkenbuhl makes this really crucial point. She says, thinking is always a process of creation.
Always.
That's what she argues. She goes even further. You are creative because you're thinking, and thinking is creative. I mean, that just flips the whole thing on its head, doesn't it?
It really does. It means anyone, wrestling with a problem, coming up with an idea, making a decision in any field.
Is actually engaging in a creative act.
Yeah. So this whole push to redefine artists, it's not just semantics. It's about recognizing something fundamental. But then she brings up passive consumption and AI. How does that fit in? Seems like a curveball.
It is a bit of a curveball, but a really relevant one today. She talks about how just constantly soaking up information, especially, through these AI-powered social media feeds,
Right, the endless scroll.
it can actually get in the way of our own original thoughts sparking. She gives this example of someone, a creative procurement officer, who was super excited about using Midjourney to generate images.
Okay, using AI art tools. What was the issue there?
The issue, or maybe the concern, was that this person genuinely felt they had created the art.
Ah.
And Birkenbuhl flags that. It's like, maybe this person felt they lacked traditional art skills, so AI felt like a shortcut to feeling creative.
Yeah.
She calls Midjourney a double cross.
A double cross.
Yeah, because it plays on that desire we have to be seen as artistic, but it doesn't necessarily involve, genuine creative thinking from the user in the same way.
That's interesting. And the social media algorithms, they feed into this.
Big time. They create what she calls a recycled digital loop.
Okay.
It feels like discovery, like you're seeing new things constantly, but really, the algorithm is often just feeding you stuff it already knows you'll like.
So less real exploration, more curated comfort zone.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Like an echo chamber of the familiar,
Yeah.
which, might not be the best place for truly original ideas to pop up.
Okay, but it's not all doom and gloom with consumption, right? She offers this twist. Consume to create. What's that about?
Right. It's about being more intentional instead of just, passively scrolling or absorbing.
Be active about it.
Exactly. Use social media or whatever you're consuming for actual research. Use it to learn something new, gather intel for a project, maybe fuel a business idea, or even just find inspiration for writing about something you care about.
So using it as a starting point.
Precisely. These actions, even if they don't immediately look like painting a picture, they are acts of creation. They can be the raw materials for something bigger, maybe even something we would call art down the line.
Which brings us back to creativity popping up everywhere, like the doctor example she gives. A surgeon mid-operation.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's heavy on science, on learned skill, expertise. But those quick decisions, adapting on the fly, there's creativity in that too, isn't there?
Absolutely. A surgeon isn't just like following a checklist. They're constantly reading the situation, adjusting problem solving right there in the moment.
Improvising almost.
In a highly skilled way, yes.
Yeah.
That ability to imagine different scenarios, to think creatively under pressure, it's crucial. And Birkenbuhl asks, why do we force this choice? You're either a doctor or you're an artist, a lawyer or a creative.
Yeah, why the or? And you see people blending these things all the time.
We do. You hear about the tech CEO who's also a serious photographer or the accountant playing jazz on weekends.
Right.
Birkenbuhl mentions Richard Feynman, famous physicist, but also loved to draw, and Charles Limb, neuroscientist, surgeon, and a jazz musician.
Wow.
These examples really show that creativity isn't stuck in one box. It crosses disciplines.
So if we kind of zoom out, what's the bigger impact here? If everyone actually believed they were creative, if they valued their own unique thoughts?
Well, Birkenbuhl suggests it could be pretty profound, maybe more acceptance of difference, recognizing the value in everyone's unique way of doing things, their artistry.
A more inclusive world, basically.
Yeah, potentially. And it highlights that creating something doesn't need, 1,000 likes or to go viral to be valuable. The value is in the act itself, in the originality of thought.
Okay, so this is all great in theory, but how do we actually start recognizing this creativity in ourselves day to day? She gives some practical tips, right?
She does some really actionable things. The first one is just fundamental. Recognize yourself as a creator. Start there.
Just that internal shift. Acknowledge it.
Exactly. And then start valuing your thoughts. See them as potential ideas, like little seeds. Birkenbuhl says, take moments to just pay attention to what's floating through your mind. That's where it starts.
Okay. Pay attention to thoughts. What else?
She talks about reverse engineering consumption. So instead of just taking stuff in, actively try to use it to build something, to generate an idea from it.
Use it as a prompt.
Yeah. And just generally start noticing all the different forms creation takes around you. It's not just paintings and songs. It's everywhere.
And getting practical, like physically writing things down.
Definitely. Get in the habit. Question pops up. Write it down. Random thought. Record it on your phone immediately.
Don't let it drift away.
Right. And maybe try some stream of consciousness, writing or recording. Just let it flow. No judgment.
Ooh, that can be tough, the no judgment part.
It is.
Yeah.
Which leads to another point. Don't immediately shoot down an idea, but also don't overhype it right away. Just let it sit, let it develop a bit, give it space.
Let it breathe.
Exactly. And approach both creating and consuming with the intention to build on things, improve things.
Yeah.
Even organizing your desk or your room, she mentions Marie Kondo, can be done with a creative eye, not just a critical one. Seeing the art in order.
Okay, so bringing all this together, Birkenbuhl's core idea, what we've been digging into, is really empowering, isn't it?
Totally. Creativity isn't some exclusive club. It's not just for the chosen few in studios or concert hall.
It's fundamental. It's in how we think, how we solve problems.
How we see the world, the unique angle you bring to things.
Yeah. So the main takeaway really is every single one of us has that potential.
Yeah.
To be an original, an artist in our own right, a creative force in whatever we do.
Well said. It's inherent.
Which leads us to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on.
Okay.
Think about one task, something you do regularly that maybe feels totally non-creative, routine, maybe boring even. How could you try approaching that task differently? Bring a bit of that artistic sensibility we talked about, your unique view, your imagination. What might happen? What new possibilities could that actually unlock, even in the mundane? Something to think about.